Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series live from the Netiv Zoom room down in Houston, Texas. And we're live with Rabbi Karmi Ingber, and we look forward to hearing what he's got to share today. Always an exciting class, so let's just jump right in. Rabbi, Shalom, Rabbi Ingber. You're live on the air. We're going to turn the class over to you, sir.
Shalom, everybody. How's everyone doing? Great. Wonderful. I'm doing it on my phone these days, so I got to just scroll, see who else is here, because if I miss you, that means I could not see you on my screen. Okay, fine. Good to see everybody. Yeah, I want to pick up some of the things we're talking about. We are heading to Israel soon. So, yeah, it's very exciting. And we're heading, what's that? Next week, yes, I will still be on next week. I'll be from Israel, though. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so good. So going to Israel, we have now a month coming up in Israel called Elul. Elul. Now it's a very, very, very important month. I didn't do this last week, Rod, and I apologize. I don't know if everyone went to my YouTube channel. I didn't post my Tu B'Av class, but I will post my class on Elul. I'm not going to do now. If you want to hear it, I'm pretty sure I have one that is for part of a private group. I will try to put it up there, explaining the month of Elul. The month of Elul is a crucial, crucial, crucial month of the year. Every month of the year is crucial. Every month of the year is a different way that God relates to us and gives us a different understanding of reality. Things in Kabbalah explain this very, very deeply, how this works. But just so we understand, 12 months of the year is not an accident. They each have a role. They all fit in. There are 12 tribes of Israel. There, as I have said many times, you get to see my healthy cookies here. These are my treats. I'm very strict about what I eat. I don't eat any, like this is like the one treat. This is my when I eat on Shabbos. So these are healthy cookies. If you look at these cookies here, you'll see it's a three-dimensional object. And that's the 6 days of the week and then the Sabbath. And then there's 12 corners. The 12 corners are the 12 edges of reality. Okay, that's called the extremities. That's why there's 12 months of the year, 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the evening. That's not an accident. 12 tribes of Israel. That's not an accident. That's the extension from the center point. The center point, and all numbers extend out to there. So I'm not going to do this now. I have this in a lot of different series that talk about time. And maybe I'll post, you know what I'll do? I'll post all of the time series. I have a time series of most months. I'll put that up for you so you guys could hear if you want. But the month of Elul is one of these 12 expansions of reality. Every month has its purpose. Elul is going to lead us into the day of judgment. So Elul, therefore, must be a significant, significant time. And it is. It is called the month of tshuva, of returning, of fixing up whatever we've done wrong. This goes across the board in so many different levels. I mean, I say you'll hear in the class if you want to listen, but like there's different acronyms for what the month of Elul stands for. One is a verse from Song of Songs says, "Ani ledodi v'dodi, I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me." That is the month of Elul. It's the month where you get to start over again in your life for all the mistakes, all the things you did wrong, and you get to actually fix it up. A concept that is not well understood in the world. Certainly in a cancer culture society, where it's like you could be thinking the worst things, but once you put them out there, now you can never fix it up. You got to pretend that you're not thinking the things that people are thinking. You have to fit. But then once you cross the line, that's it, you're gone. You are canceled. And that's really good because the people that cancel, I know they've never made a mistake in their entire lives, right? Okay, so we got a problem. If we live in a society that when everyone cancels everyone else, they have a right to, because people are so bad, that would imply they've never done anything wrong. And they must be very amazing people, because I've done things wrong. I probably do things wrong all the time. Now, this is crucial. Last week I talked a little bit about Christianity, and I didn't want to get into there because that's not really my topic, because I'll explain as we go on today. But it happens to be in Christianity. It's one of the issues that is central to people in that religion, because they look at the Bible and say, how do you fix up when you made a mistake? Right? And therefore they need to have someone atone for their guilt, which is really unbearable because it's an original guilt in the Christian theology. And therefore I need someone to take care of it. I don't have the offerings of the temple. I don't have. What do you do? Well, the good news for those who know is that the process of tshuva, of returning, was created before the world was created. The process of fixing up what we've done wrong is essential to the makeup of reality. And I don't know why we're not all dancing, in the air when we hear this, because we all have messed up. And if you think you haven't, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you think that the other person hasn't messed up, then you're also not living in reality. You all mess up. It's okay. The Talmud says you should train yourself to say, I don't know. I tell people it's a good way to start your morning. Start your morning, you go there, you brush your teeth, you look in the mirror, and there's a couple of things the Talmud says you have to say. One thing you say is, the world was created for me. What? That's egotistical. What do you mean? No, it's not. Because I'm saying it, you're saying it, you're saying it, and you're saying it. Everyone needs to know that the world was, they are a unique piece in the puzzle. They must do what they got to do. Whatever their mission is, they must do it. And that is why it says the world was created from one couple, Adam and Eve, and not from, like, the animals, which came from many. God created many elephants and many crocodiles. Why didn't he create a lot of people? They create one to teach you. If you destroy a person, you kill a person, you're killing an entire world. If you save one person, you're saving an entire world. Every person has a special, unique thing that they could do. They're valuable. So you got to start your day, and everyone needs to say, the world's created for me. Not in the egotistical, ridiculous way. Oh, the world's created for me. I can do it. I'll tear them apart. No, because everyone is saying it. Everyone is saying it. Everyone has something they are supposed to do. And God created them. They have a purpose. Do the purpose. If they don't do the purpose, oh, that's not good. Then we say, as Stephen asked me a couple weeks ago, then we say in the time of creation, God created Adam and Eve first on their soul, but on their body last. And why? Because if Adam and Eve, if human beings live properly, they are the pinnacle of society. They could take everything and elevate it. But if they don't, we say, you know what? The mosquito precedes you. Why are you? What do you? The mosquito is doing his job. He was created to be a nuisance. Someone should tell Bill Gates this before he sprays whatever he's going to spray and change the entire world. Mosquitoes are not an accident. God created mosquitoes too, Bill. I know that you think you're God, but you're not. So God created mosquitoes, and they have a purpose. And I'm not telling you shouldn't have mosquito pest control. You can, but they're there, and they have. And if a person does not live his life as he's supposed to, then he actually, in one sense, is worse than the animals. The animals do what they're supposed to do. They are innately doing that. Human beings, but a person who wakes up in the morning and says, the world was created for me, and I have a purpose, and God created me, and I got to do something valuable because I have a role, that's a good way to start your day. The second thing the Talmud says, and it's not in this order, I'm just putting this, I'm just, sort of culling for you some ideas. But another thing the Talmud said the person should get used to saying is, I don't know. I tell people to practice that. Go in front of the mirror. I don't know. Yeah. So what do you think about what I should do with my life? I really don't know. What do you think is, do you think I should, like I always tell people with the cold corona thing, everyone was so smart. Everyone was like, I know this, I know that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. It's like, who knows? It's a lot of lies going on. But everyone you ask a question, it's like, I know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe there's something beyond you that you don't know. And not only that, maybe, it's definitely, it's definitely. There are things by definition you don't know. And if there weren't, there was no purpose of being alive. The reality, oh, that's a mosquito, you see? And that mosquito is, oh, ah, he came just for this purpose. And I caught him and I didn't kill him properly. Oh, gosh. Well, I finally caught him. He's been flying around my room the whole morning. Okay. Anyway. And we do have mosquito control, it's just not working so well lately. Okay. So where was I? So now, so you have to trace out and say you don't know. So, but what the reality is, you don't. And this is very, very, very important because everything that is beyond what you know is your next area of development, right? Like, when before people said the world was round, which the Torah always said it was round, but people didn't know, everyone thought the world was flat. So when the guy came along and said, hey, wait a minute, the world's not flat, it's round. What, are you crazy? Are you some kind of conspiracy theorist? The world's round. How could that be? Because everything you don't know is beyond you. And I got to tell you, what we don't know is so astronomical, is so great that we can't even imagine it. I tell you something, I told you in our kollel in Israel, we're learning Kabbalah, which is the deeper wisdom, and every time I understand one drop, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like full of I go, oh my gosh, I really understand so little. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Because as you understand more, so to train yourself to realize you don't know the things you think you know is a good thing to do. Those are two mindsets that we have to really have. One is our value as people, the world's created for me. On the other hand, there's also a knowledge that not knowing and making mistakes is part of a process that has to be in a world where I am meant to grow. It has to be, right? It cannot be any other way. The month of Elul is a month where you get ready for Rosh Hashanah, for the judgment, by fixing up everything you did wrong the whole year, your whole life. And there's a lot of processes. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it in terms of even the 7 Noahide laws, because Sandy's asked me many times, because I don't know this is talked about much to Noahides, but I think that a lot of this would be under the category of logical mitzvot, because between us and God, we have done things. Between us and our friends, we have done things. And so everyone understands that I make mistakes. How do I fix up my mistake? That's what this month is set up for. And that's why the acronym of the month, I said before, is many, but one is Ani, I am for my beloved, V'dodili. Elul stands for I am for God, my beloved is for me. If you look at the constellations, the signs in astrology, which a lot of astrology today is nutty, but it's based on actual real things. If you look, the sign which is correct is in Hebrew, it's called Betula, which in English is called Virgo. That's true. It means the month is Virgo, virgin. Why? Because in the month of Elul, you can start a relationship anew. That's what it means. It's not an accident. It's like you scratch your head and you're like, wait a minute, let's see what these ancient astrologers say. What month do they have for the month of September, October? It's the scales. Hey, wow, that's interesting. Why is Rosh Hashanah and the Day of Judgment in the month of scales? So you can have people making their explanations, but if you're tuned in with reality, reality is reality. And the month of judgment is the next month after El Tishrei. That is the month of the scales, because it's the month of judgment. It's a month that you have to figure out, where are you? But how do you prepare for that? The preparing for that is the month of Elul, which is the month of Virgo, which means it's building yourself anew and being able to go into relationships anew between me and God, between me and other people. So how do you do this? Okay. So I want to talk today about a little bit about it. I want to talk a little bit. I want to today, and I want to start by talking about a little bit how you do this with other people, because there's two different processes. One is fixing up what you've done wrong against God, which is wrong against yourself too. You should just know, as an aside. That's why the English word repentance is like it's not the it's a wrong translation. The word is called tshuva. It's translated as repentance. That's not the actual translation. The word tshuva means to return. What are you returning to? What are you returning to? If I'm returning, it implies I was here before, right? The word is not repentance. Repentance is like, you stupid person, bam, bam, bam. I'm punishing, repent. You sinner. That's not the word is. The word is tshuva, to return. I can't return to some place I was before. So if you're returning to your source. You're returning to where you come from. You're returning to what is your central positive component, the Tselem Elokim, the godliness in you that you're returning to. It's very simple. It's very simple. And it's very, very, very deep, because that's what you're returning to. You have to return. Not that you be something. I mean, many people have never been this their whole lives. But we need to return to God, which means to return to the root of what we are too. So when we did something wrong, we've done it wrong against ourselves, right? We've done wrong towards God, who created me and wants me to go in a certain direction, and possibly to other people. Okay, so let me get some questions, comments on this before I start going into one of the paths of fixing up what we've done wrong. Okay. Do you have any questions or ideas before I go on? No? You guys want me just to yap? Just keep talking? Okay, I'll keep talking. I once said, when I was a rabbi in a synagogue, I said one of the my better qualities about being a rabbi is I was a rabbi, didn't like hear myself speak so much. So I would talk, but it's like, okay. Sometimes you always want to talk about it. No, I want to hear from you also, so we can know how to share the ideas that are going to be relevant. But I will continue talking. So now, but please, if anyone has any ideas here, feel free to sort of interrupt at some points, because I do want to make this understandable in our lives. So let's start, and then we'll see where this goes. Let's start between. There's two main paths. I got to return between man and God, human beings and God, and human beings and their fellow human beings. Which one is harder? That's an open question now. Which one's harder? I'm going to wait for an answer on that one. So I'm going to put on your hold here. Somebody tell me, which one do you think is harder, between man and God?
It's definitely harder between man and man.
Why do you think so, Dan?
Oh, because people are so oversensitive, and very, very hard to please people, and people take offenses so deep.
Okay, that's a very, very good point. Dan is hitting right nail on the head largely. it is harder, really, in that sense, to fix up between people. And there's a few reasons. One is, like Dan said, when you sincerely come to return to Hashem, well, he's all compassionate, so you're good if you do it properly. If you fake it, then to the degree you didn't do it, you didn't do it. But if you do it sincerely, then we don't have a problem. To another person, you may come across with the greatest, most sincere, genuine apology, and it might not work. How long do you keep at that? How many times do I have to keep going? I apologize every year to you. When is the point where I can say, listen, I've done my... So there is a point. Generally, it's 3 times. Generally, it's 3 times. 3 times of genuine. Now, genuine means genuine. I have to get what the genuine means. But genuine means if you did something wrong against someone, you really have to find a way to do it. If at a certain point they just are blocked, and you say, okay, listen, you're blocked, and I hope someday you get past this. But I have a right, and I'm supposed to move on. So one thing is with Hashem, when you come genuinely, we're done. That's one. Second thing is that you have to, and this is one of the hardest parts about fixing up. You got to undo the bad thing you did. That's not always so easy. Like, here's a good one. You want to go and fix up with someone. You say, okay, listen, let's give the person the name Sally. Sally, you thought we were always really good friends. I gotta tell you the truth. I've been bad-mouthing you all around town. What? Okay. Oh, well, I don't forgive you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. No. Okay. Forgive you. After whatever time. Now, what about all the people that you said the bad things about me to? How do you fix that up? And now it gets tricky. You hurt my feelings, you cause this, you cause that. One of the problems and one of the hardest parts about fixing up, and fixing up largely is easy. I used to tell my kids, just know, I used to tell my kids did something wrong, not to another person. They did something that wrong that was not in lines with Torah. I would tell them when they were little, I'd say, okay, go into the other room and do tshuva. Go talk to God and do tshuva. They're like, what? Yeah. Go into the room. Think about what you did. Feel bad about it. Admit you did it. Make a plan you're not going to do it again. Those are the 3 steps. The kid goes into the room, feels about what they did, thinks about it, admits I did it. I can't. Gotta admit it. And then goes and says, I don't want to do it ever again. I'll be careful. I'll try never to do it again. Okay, kid comes out smiling. Every single time. It's like the greatest feeling. Like, how do you do with your friend that you hurt their feelings, they're not willing to let go, and you're trying, and you're not so sure you can even fix up what you did? That's hard. That's really hard. Now, I want to ask you another question. So Dan is right. It's going to be trickier with a human being, because to get them to be consoled, to get them to let go, you really got to undo it in a way that you might not be able to. And then at least for 3 times, until you really need to, make sure that even if it's something in their head that they're holding on to, there's a still point you still have to keep going until they try, they want to let you go. So, okay, so now I'm going to ask you another question, and this is something that is trickier. Do you think you need to apologize? We'll say both to God and to people for something you did wrong by accident. That's an open question. Come on, people, let's see you talk today. I see people hiding. I see some more people. Everyone's Everyone's got their picture off, which means you're all on the beach. You're saying, okay, it's the end of the year. I'm going to watch the rabbi, but I think I'm going to lie on the beach, I think. Yeah. So what do you think? Let me hear. What do you think? You think that you need to apologize if something was done and did it by accident?
Um,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Now you want to tell me why? Why do you think that?
Because that person may not have given you the benefit of the doubt, and they may have assumed that you had ill intents, and like, God forbid, they take that to the grave against you. They have no knowledge. Their life can unravel because of what you did, essentially. Like, it
Okay,
can have a
great.
lasting effect.
Great. 100% correct. I agree. I agree. I want to add something though, Cheyenne. What happened to the person you insulted is such a righteous person. They do, which is the custom, by the way, that all Jewish people do is when they go to bed, they forgive everyone as they go to bed. That's when we say the Shema, when we go to bed at night, we forgive every person. Not an easy job to do sometimes. Nah, depending on your life, that's not so easy. Sometimes I think I've done it, and then I say, I sort of said I forgive them, but I'm still holding on to something that kind of bugs me still, especially if someone's done something really bad to you. So it's not so easy. But let's say, Cheyenne, the person you hurt was one of these really great tzaddikim, righteous people. So you did something against them by accident, and they are totally fine. They forgave you at night. Do you think there's still any need to fix that up? That's a tougher question. Let's think about that a second. Is there any need to fix that one up?
I'd say yes, maybe for me, to make sure that there's something inside of me that probably needs to know, like, I'm doing what I have been called to do to make sure I'm being right with Hashem and being right with others.
Right.
So.
Right. Because, see, the thing that we don't really realize is that accidents are accidents, but, maybe we could have been a little more careful. Right? Right? In Jewish law, if you look at the offerings that people would bring to the temple, most of them, almost all of them, were really for accidental problems. The laws in the Torah that prescribe various consequences are for intentional. Most of the things that the offerings were for is what I didn't mean to do it. Well, if you didn't mean to do it, so it's not my fault, right? We kind of. Can we accept responsibility for an accident? Now, there's degrees of accidents. There's one kind of accident that's really not your fault. It's a freak thing. Yeah, no. But there are other things like, for example, I don't know, like the worst thing in the world. There's a whole chapter in the Torah talks about someone who kills by accident. I can't imagine a worse thing. The law is he has to go into exile because he's taken a human life. It was an accident. Yeah, but wait a minute. Does that mean there's no culpability here? You're driving the car a little bit wild and it was not your fault, but still. So yeah, sometimes when an accident happens, you may have crossed the line that you didn't mean to, but you still did. You didn't mean to do it. So the answer is, yeah, an accident, we don't want to take responsibility for that. We want to say, like, it wasn't my fault. It was an accident. But if you think about a lot of the accidents, okay, it's not totally your fault. I'm not saying we're bad people then, but like, I don't know, let's say, I'll give you a Torah example. I'll think of a better example for people in a second, but like, on the Sabbath, we can't put lights on. If someone hits the light on by mistake, that would be a transgression. It would, in the time of the temple, would require an offering. That little accident of hitting the light bulb just cost them $1,000, turning the light on by mistake. So, but if he had more consciousness, he wouldn't have gone to the habit. If he taped the lights, he wouldn't have gotten to the habit. So when I do something with someone, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. This happens a lot. Um, I've had times where I sit with people in the room and somebody is talking about something, and I know the other person has a problem. Let's say, I don't know, let's say a person's having marital problems. Let's say a person's single looking to get married. And that person's sitting there and they're talking about something that's going to make the other person feel bad. They didn't mean to do it. They didn't mean to like bring this topic up when this person is going through a process. And they didn't maybe even know, but they knew a little bit. So could they have been more sensitive? Could they have been more careful that their accidental comment that hurt the person's feelings could have been avoided? What do you think? I think, yeah.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
we've seen a lot in the last several years a marshmallow culture where people are offended at everything and they weaponize their offense, or they use disgust in a sense that incites others. And I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah.
part of woke liberalism, and it just it doesn't realize that it's being offensive. I find unnecessary offense is a defensive, needless defensive mechanism that works offensively.
Yeah. I have to qualify that. Thank you, because that's exactly correct. I mean, that's not what that is. That is something entirely different. That is, I want to push on you what my reality is. And when you don't want to live according to my rules, you are a terrible person. Uh, yes, there is a lot of problem. Now, there's times you could be sensitive, but there's times that people are. It's not a point of sensitivity. It's a point of what you're talking about, which has happened in the society, which is that it's turned into a weapon. You understand the difference? I'm sitting with people, and I know this person has an issue. I know they're going through something, and I'm talking. I'm not being considered my friend there. Okay, I could, I should. Now I have another reality where a person says, I want to adopt a certain view of the world. Okay. For example, I view there's no males and females in the world. Okay. That's it. You want to live in whatever fancy you want, you can live ever. Like that. That's the American way. You could think whatever you want to think. So now when you think that you to be insulted when someone else thinks differently and ascribes to their view of the world, that's not a defensive issue. That's an offensive issue. That's an attack. That's a weaponization. That means that I am imposing on you my reality. That's something completely different that people are doing today. And that should not be, again, when there's no reason to go and to offend someone for no reason. But yes, there are situations now where people are making this. I saw the craziest thing today. It's the craziest thing. Did you know that there was a lawsuit by Native Americans against the Washington Redskins for changing their name from the Redskins to the Commanders? Did you see this? I was like, it was the funniest thing. I was fell off my chair. It was like there was a group of Native Americans that said that, wait a minute, when you said you were the Redskins, we took that as a source of pride. that it was the bravery, it was the Native American, and that they had a part of history of America, and they forced them to change the name. I don't know if you remember that. It's like, so you're never getting out of it. You're never getting out of it because everyone has their, pushing their reality on things. You're never going to get out of it. So that's something different, Dan. And you don't have to be. You should not be accommodating to that. You should not be. For example, I don't know. Like I don't really hang out with too many trans people, to be frank with you. But if I did, when I make a point in calling me he or she, I certainly would not call them the gender they changed from. I would probably just speak about them in the third person or whatever, because what do I need this stuff? Whatever. I'm not. There's not a conversation. I'm not gonna. You're not coming to me to ask me my opinion. So whatever. So I don't. I'm not necessarily gonna go now. If you have to make a stand on it, if you're voting or if you're something like that, that's something else. But Dan, you're saying a great point. So people are always, and the thing about, just because you brought me into a political realm, Dan, which I appreciate, because you guys give me a venue to actually vent sometimes. I don't get, a lot of times I don't have the proper ability to vent in these things. But you bring up another point, Dan, which bothers me even more about this cancel culture, marshmallow, whatever it's called. The thing that bothers me more is the hypocrisy. That's what bothers me more. I mean, Donald Trump was a guy. He was a businessman. He was doing his things. He was loud. He was this. He was that. And whenever everyone else wants to find the flaw with him, he's that. When they do the same thing, but they're politicians, and they, attack the other one, and you see it's getting more and more bizarre. You're in Russia collusion. Wait a minute. You're in Russia collusion. You're creating fake news. You're saying the virus was made in a laboratory. No, it's not true. You keep looking at it, you're like, the hypocrisy is just unimaginable. And as I said to you before about the cancel culture, because let's say I said something wrong, I made a mistake. They will never let the guy off the hook forever. He has to grovel and this, no. He has an opinion. Maybe he's wrong. But like they do things that are so wrong, but they may have learned the etiquette of what they need to fit into a societal paradigm that they've created. But that's just something they made up. So great. So these are the sensitivity course. Today you could say this, today you could say that. That's not the way it worked when I was a kid. All right, so you want to say this is your new reality and I must abide by it, and you're now righteous because you abide by that reality? So good point, Dan. But so that I don't think you have to. I don't think on that you have to go and to bend yourself into a pretzel. But to be sensitive to someone else when you inadvertently hurt them, I mean, think about it. Think about your family, right? Has anyone ever inadvertently, hurt someone in their family? Of course we have. Of course we have. Yeah, Stephen.
What does answering in the third person mean?
Third person means just well, I don't know. I've never had this interaction really, but a third person is actually, I don't know if it would be weird. Sometimes when people speak to rabbis, they speak to them in the third person. Like when I speak to my rabbi, I speak to them in the third person. I say, does the rabbi want to? I don't say, hey, to you. You is first person. I is first person. You is called second person. He, or, does the rabbi think, is called third person. So it would be weird. I probably wouldn't say to a trans person, do they think that they I probably wouldn't do that, but I would just avoid getting into insulting them somehow. I don't know what word I would do because I don't think I've ever been in this situation yet. But I would just avoid saying you. I don't know. I would probably just avoid saying a pronoun because what's the point? I'm not. Let me be clear. you should not say the wrong pronoun, because that is condoning something that's not true. Sorry. Should you say the opposite? Well, depends what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get into a fight, then you probably should. If you're trying to explain something to the person, it's not going to do anything. So, you know what I'm saying? You can't use the non-correct thing, because then you are then you're a party to a world view that is not in reality, and you can't do that. You can't go and admit something. The person says to you, right? I don't know. Right? There's no God. You can't say yeah. So if a guy says, right, there's no male females, you can't say no, because there is. So you cannot act. It's a law. It's a law in Torah. It's a fascinating law, because somebody asked me this. Oh, I have a judge. He asked me this question. He liked my answer. I have a judge in my synagogue, and he asked me about which topic. Oh, he asked me a topic about the Supreme Court decision about if someone who doesn't want to make a cake for somebody who is getting a same-sex marriage. He asked me what I thought about that. I really hadn't given it that much thought, but I gave him what I did think was a Torah answer. And I think a Torah answer is very important here, because it's actually very different than both answers. So I'll tell you what I think the Torah answer is. The Torah answer is that you should not and cannot do something that is proactively counter to what is true. Therefore, to make the decoration and say, congratulations on this and this thing, it's very wonderful, that you shouldn't do, because then you are being forced to say something that is counter to your belief of what is true. However, to make a generic cake that the person will take and write on a happy marriage to Joe and Tom, that's not your business. You're not going and actively condoning and admitting to something being correct that you know is incorrect. But what he's going to do is his business. If I make a cake and he wants to write on it, I'm a baker, and they're saying bake a cake, and I bake a cake, and they want to write on it what they want to write on it, that's them to do. I'm not proactively doing that. So a passive action that I do, you need to do that in society. Well, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I don't agree with your beliefs, and I'm a plumber, and I say, hey, come and fix my drain. You say, well, your beliefs are against mine, and therefore I can't fix your toilet. I mean, this is insane. It's like that. The country would not function. It's not appropriate. And that is Jewish law, by the way, that for the sake of peace, there is the concept of, when I'm not proactively assisting the sinner, then I do that because I am a person of peace in the world. When I am proactively assisting in an act that itself is a problem, I cannot do that. I will be dishonest to myself and to my values, and therefore damage myself and the world, because I am not being honest to what is true, what I know to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Good.
All right, so good. So now that we've accomplished the things I wanted to talk about in terms of, and I'll give it to you fast. So, like, the basic process of fixing up in a relationship, and this is the basic process of returning to God, is to regret what I did. That's the first process. I think I did the wrong thing. I regret it. Second, I admit it. I admit it. Because that's a very different step. You see it with people in couples sometimes, like, I feel bad about it. But so are you saying you were wrong? I, I didn't say that. I didn't. No, I got that. Made them better. I didn't say I was wrong. Say you're wrong. It's not gonna kill you. You're wrong. And then I make a plan that I say I don't want to do that again. This is how I'm gonna try not to do it again. Now, when I deal with people, this is the biggest problem that you have. So with people, they can be insulted, and you have to get them, and you got to fix up what you did wrong. But there's another problem I want to ask you about. Let's say you did something to someone, and in the reality of the situation, you're maybe 3% wrong, and they're 97% wrong. You ever have that? I got upset and I yelled that I shouldn't have yelled. But, you just, whatever, you just smashed my car for no reason. You weren't allowed to take it, and you took it, and you went, and so I was wrong 3%. They were wrong. So a person who's wrong 3% apologize to someone who's wrong 97%. That's a hard question.
No, I would. I would be the instigator on my side to correct the problem. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know you don't want to talk about it, but because what I learned in Christendom is I would reconcile everything until I made it comfortable with the other person. I'd have to sort of, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what you meant by the Christian thing. We'll get to that in a second, but the reality is that is what you're supposed to do.
Well,
if you are 3% wrong, what's the difference? You want to fix up your 3%. And this is where people get stuck. Because they're stuck because the other person is mostly wrong. And so how do I apologize for anything? They didn't apologize to me.
Yeah.
Well, some people don't apologize.
What's that?
Some people just don't apologize.
That's right. I have a series on this, and I do this in one of the 7 mindsets. That's the 4th mindset, which one day we guys will do it together. We'll talk about it. But one of the things there is I talk about is that I'll give you an example. I had this woman, and I mentioned this in the video there. I had a woman who was had a very bad relationship with her mother. Bad relationship. Terrible. And she's telling me about her relationship. And I look at her and I go, your mother's 8 years old. She goes, what are you talking about? My mother's 62. I said, no, she's not. She's 8 years old. The woman thought I was going out of my mind. What do you mean she's 8? She's 62. I said, no, I hear exactly the problem. And I'm telling you, she is stuck on a development point of a person who's 8 years old. She looks like a full adult, and you experience like a full adult because she's been your life the whole time. But where she's coming from in terms of her pain and in terms of her knee-jerk response, it's like a child who's still 8 years old. The woman goes to me, she goes, oh my gosh, can't believe it. I said, what do you mean? She says, my mother's father died when she was 8 years old. I said, yeah. So that's where she's stuck. It's not about how you go and be right. It's one of the most amazing things in the world. Joseph, when the brothers sell him into slavery, then Joseph becomes the king and the viceroy of Egypt. And there's different interactions they have later. One interaction is like this. The brothers feel that Joseph may take revenge on them if their father died, and they go and they say, listen, we've done terrible to you. And he gives a very weird answer. He says this, listen. He says, no, don't worry about it. Please. He says, you guys had bad intention, but God had a different plan. He sent me to Egypt to save us. Now, I got to tell you something. That doesn't sound like the most pacifying thing to say. We would normally say, listen, you're swell, you're great. You know, he didn't say that. He said, yeah, it's true you had bad intention, but God had a different plan with this. So what do you mean? What are you telling me a bad intention for? The answer is he's saying, this is not a dance between you and me. I forgave you. I'm past this. You're stuck, whatever you're stuck in. This is your mistake. It's fine. But that's between you and God. I'm okay. I could let go. Once I let go, once that woman looks at her 62-year-old mother and says, listen, you know, she tried and she was stuck in this and that, and whatever, I let it go. So at that point, right? So at that point, when that becomes the concept, I let it go, then I'm not angry with the person now. And if in a relationship I've done something wrong,
They can't see
I
you.
can say, here the person's not getting it, but I can apologize for what I did wrong. Okay? That makes sense?
Rabbi, can
Yeah.
I ask you a question along those
Please.
lines? I have
Yeah.
a friend, we've been very good friends for many years. And I noticed a change in the relationship. It's like a wall came up and it was very cold and distant. And I kept thinking back and back, what have I done? What did I do? What could I have done? And I couldn't come up with anything. So I finally asked.
Good.
You've been a valuable friend for these many years and something seems different. And what can we do? What can I do? And
Right.
the response was, nothing's wrong. You didn't do anything. And that was it. So how many times, but the relationship is not what it was. So how many times do I keep pursuing, trying to find what it is? Or do now, he said nothing, I didn't do anything. Do I let it go now?
So this is called the southern part of America's problem, bless your heart, where you don't exactly want to tell people, you know, when I got to the South and I understood bless your heart was another way to say drop dead, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were saying to me, bless your heart. Bless his heart. So people don't want to actually say, they don't really want to say what it is. Now, the question is why? I don't know here. The rule, again, to apologize is three things. Again, but people have, the rule is also you're not allowed not to say it. I happen to like the South, by the way. I gave up my, when I got here, I gave up my New York citizenship, even though there's no such thing. But I said, I like the South. I don't like, you know, I'm a Southern boy in many ways. But that's wrong what they do. You are supposed to tell someone when they hurt you. It's actually one of the obligations in relationships in the Torah. It's an obligation to tell someone. You can't, if they ask you, you got to tell them. So you know, so really the person's supposed to tell you. So, you know, the question is, I don't know the story, but can you you really have no idea why?
I have no idea. No idea.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is this person, did anything change when your spiritual views of the world change?
No, well, they don't know to what, or he does not know to what extent my views have changed. If he asks the question, I will answer, but I haven't gone into a lot of detail. But when I first moved here with them, he and his wife, I did not go to the church they thought I would be going to. There was a division there. But
Right.
this has happened several years after that.
Right. Yeah,
So
but
I don't think that,
I don't know. I don't know. But if that is what it is, then it's something that is important for you to not to apologize for. Meaning that if a person is not able to reconcile with your awareness of truth, there's no one to talk to. I don't know if that's it, but it does sound like that, because if you keep asking the person, then it probably is nothing that they want to tell you.
But do
You
I
know,
keep pursuing? Do I keep trying? Do I keep asking? Or do when they say it's nothing
I mean, I would say 3 times you said, if I did anything against you, I'm really sorry. And like, can we, and it sounds like you've done that 3 times. You've already tried 3 times. I probably wouldn't go forward anymore.
okay.
You know
Again,
what, Sandy?
I can't say definitively, because I don't know. My sense is it may be your religious convictions, because that would be the reason, whatever it is, they don't want to tell you. That I know for sure, because
Right.
it's one that they were told you already. So they don't want to tell you. Why they not want to tell you? It could be that they feel it's something that they feel funny telling you, embarrassed to tell you. There's no good point in telling you, whatever it is. And if they have their theology, they think, okay, you are, a devil now. Even if they have a hint of that, then they might not want to tell you.
They could
I'm
have
not saying
heard
it's that.
something through the grapevine.
What's that?
They could have heard something through the grapevine.
Right. You don't know. So again, if it's something that you did, then I would try to pursue it and try to get some knowledge out of it. And then I would follow the process of 3 times of really making amends. I'm really sorry I did anything. I'm really sorry. I don't know what I must have done, but I'm really sorry if I did something. I didn't mean to. I'm really sorry about it. Can we work this through? Now, if they tell you you didn't do anything wrong, I don't even know you need 3 times, because what could you do?
Right.
But certainly 3 times it knows. If it's a other issue, then there's nothing to do. Nothing to do, because again, you cannot admit to something that's not correct, and you can't apologize for what you know to be true. That would be a very bad thing for you.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's sort of tie this all together. What we got now is we are walking into the month of Elul, a month we could start anew. And the place I want us all to start is let's start between our friends, family, and people we know. And it's a fascinating process to do, because we get stuck in the dance. You hurt me, I hurt you. That's irrelevant. This is between you and God, which means you and your source, you and acting correctly. It's also between the person that you may have hurt, for sure. You have to undo whatever you might have done. But even if you're 5% wrong, don't be embarrassed to say, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, if it was an accident, hey, I'm sorry. Okay? Does that make sense so far? Okay. I want to follow up on something that happened last week. So I'm going to make this into just to understand a little bit also. I want to apologize publicly to one of our members here. 'Cause I think I said something maybe inadvertently that may have been misunderstood. And that's fine. But I want us to understand this. First of all, sometimes we do things and people get insulted. We don't know why they're insulted. And sometimes what we have to do is we have been negligent in a relationship, right? So maybe like people are more sensitive. Why is my wife so sensitive? Well, maybe because you haven't said I love you in like 10 years. It's like, what do you think? So first of all, I want to. Is Rod here today? He's muted, so I'm assuming he's not in. Okay, but I want to reach out to Rod and to Dan. I want to give them public thanks for the dedication that they put into this whole process. It's really, really important. It's really, really important. It means that a person goes and says, not only do I think the truth is important to me, it's important for the world. And I'm willing to actually put time and energy to make that happen. So I want to give public thanks first to Rod and to Dan for sort of promoting Torah to the world. It's an awesome thing. And to you all, for really sort of saying, okay, let's explore the truth. It's a fabulous thing that should not be minimized. Okay. I said something last week, and I want to explain a little bit to you. And this is just a personal thing to us to understand this. In terms of, I mentioned my I mean, a good friend of mine, but I met Tuvia Singer years ago, and I mentioned Rav Tuvia, and he's a wonderful person, and I want to share with you something that I think is great about what Rabbi Singer does, and why I don't do it. Why I think it's great what he does, and why I consciously decided that's not what I'm going to do. And I spoke to him about it. Now I want to explain to you a little bit. Everyone in life is exposed to various things, right? I went to American colleges in the 80s. You know, my rock and roll knowledge is extensive. You know, and I would never wish this upon my children, you know, but that was the life that Hashem wanted me to see. I saw certain things, and I can relate to many people in the world because that's where God put me, where I had to be. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Understand that? It's like the you know, as a rabbi, when I you know, if I am talking to someone and I don't know, they mention something about music, and I'm like, yeah, and they said, wait, the rabbi knows, you know, the Beatles better than me. Okay, Beatles are kind of old, but you know, like, wow, he appreciates it. Like, so, like, I'm coming from a place that I could you know, a rabbi who grew up in, the Haredi areas of Jerusalem. That's not his world. You know, and you know, it's not a question of regretting it. It's a question of understanding where God puts you and why. You know, I made a calculation when I got to Israel when I was 21 that I knew over 600 songs by heart, including Bob Dylan songs that have 20 verses. I knew them by heart. And I was so upset. I said, if I knew that much Mishnah, that much oral Torah by heart, you know what I would know? I was actually happy once when I started forgetting some of the words to the songs. I was like, okay, at least I can say if I remember all the Mishnahs, I started forgetting that what I grew up with, you know. But that's what I got. It's not an accident. That's what you get exposed to, and that's what you have to do. In this week's Torah portion, it's amazing because in this week's Torah portion, I have everything I need to answer, not to get involved in anything that is thoughts and ideas that are outside the pale of truth. It's everything in this week's Torah portion. It's unbelievable. Everything. You have the law of a false prophet, person who's dreamed a dream, and it says he could, even if he does miraculous things, if he comes and changes one aspect of Torah, it doesn't matter. He did witchcraft, he did this, he did that. It doesn't make a difference. God told you he can't change. And this prophet, so-called false prophet, could come along, and he could do miracles. Even if he does miracles, it means nothing. God said that. It's a complete contradiction. You can't go anyplace. And the verse says right before, nothing from the Torah could change. Not one law in the finest detail could change. And even if a guy comes along and says, and he does miracles. He's a false prophet. I don't really need anything else, because I can't imagine a thing clearer. If you say God wrote the Torah, you call something Old Testament, you got to read it. And when it says it could never change one iota, and even if a guy would do miracles of miracles, it would mean nothing. I got no reason to look any further. Now, years ago, when I spoke to Ratovia Singers, I said to him, I said, listen, I teach, a lot of Jews, a lot of things for Jews to bring them and connect them to the Torah. I said, I'm wondering about getting an expertise and reading into the Christian Bible. And he said, listen, you're going to feel on a visceral level not good with it. And he, as a very noble person, has gone into a place that a Jew does not need to be in. Doesn't sit good with a soul that has not, experienced a departure from truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just like, I don't know that, like some of the things that I was exposed to as growing up as a modern American kid, that I would want my kids to be exposed to, but I was. And therefore, within that reality, I gotta find a way to use that for a better purpose. Those of you who grew up in a Christian reality, you will have knowledge. You will maybe have I don't want to say a calling, but you may have a purpose to use your knowledge of what you were exposed to help people. I don't have that place in me. My place is I want to share truth with people, and someone who is not able to hear that because they're stuck in whatever dogma they're in, it's not where I have to go. It's not my job. Not that I'm shirking my responsibility. It's not for my soul. It's not what I have to do. And that's why, like, when Arthur Sigler said to me, I was like, wow, you took one for the team. You took one for the team. It's like I said to you before, I spend time with you all because you're all so valuable. I gotta tell you, I learned Torah. Whatever I learn, and it goes deeper and deeper. It's like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to spend my time reading something else. I don't need to do that. Yeah, you're made in the image of God, and there's a greatness that can be talked about. I don't need to be right now. And therefore, that's not my role. That's not, and that's what I was trying to say last week. And I may have been curt with it a little bit, because I know that Rod and Dan, they both have that ability and that role because they come from a society, certain society. What for me, what I want to do is I want to share truth. I saw some. It happened to me in this week's parsha also. It really was amazing. It was marching this week's parsha, this week's Torah portion. It says, like, it's hard for people to get rid of what they were told from their forefathers. You just can't do it. It's hard. It's hard. You were told Santa Claus. Now you all found out the secret. But okay, whatever it is. The guy was raised this way. He was told this thing. It's hard for people to pull out. It doesn't justify. Everyone's got to come to truth, but it does make you understand that people may be stuck in what they're stuck in, and that's not my area. I want to, those who want to hear truth. I want to be able to share it with them, And I'm not looking to fight. I'm not looking to yell. I'm not looking to, I don't need to. It just doesn't take up, it's not in my bandwidth. And I don't want it in my bandwidth. I made a decision years ago. Rabbi Tuvia Singer took on for the team, and he learned those details of things that were, aberrations and this and that and counter to what was the truth of Torah. He spent time in there and didn't spend time in other aspects that he could have, because he felt that he was going to help people. And I think it's a noble task for a Jew who feels to do that, like he and some other people have done. That's not what I want to do. It's not what I do. What I do is to share truth to those who want to hear it. Those who don't, I don't want to get into a fight with you. I don't want to talk about your religion and this and that. I don't believe in religion. Religions, there's no such thing as Jew. There's no such thing as Noachai. There is truth, there's God who created the world, and everything functions according to this system. And everyone in the world has commandments they must do. And people that are descendants of Abraham have 613 commandments. People are descendants of Noah, who's everyone else in the world, has 7 commandments they have to do. That's the reality. There's no religion. I'm not arguing religion. There's no point in arguing religion, because no one wants to hear. What are you arguing? Who are you arguing with? Is the guy? So now, again, there is a place for those, for experts, people who do these things, people who have come from Christian backgrounds, who therefore you may look at your own mission in life and feel, wait, I was exposed to these things. I must be a representative to discuss things, and I commend that. I don't disagree with that. That's why I want to apologize if I was last week, if I gave an impression that I disqualify that in any way. I don't. God forbid. I think that's crucial for everyone to go and to understand. If God puts you in a certain reality, that is your life circumstances. It's called your mazel. It's called, there's no word in English for it. It's my book in chapter 2. If we would do a semi, but it's the circumstances of your life that you have. That's not an accident. That is set up that way. There are circumstances of your reality that God gives you, that from there you are supposed to do your mission in life. And I commend my friend Tuvia Singer for doing that. I'm quite happy that I did not take that path, because I just don't want to. I tell you, it was a funny story. One time I was coming back from America, and in Israel, I was coming back to Israel, and they have these vans that pick up people from the airport and take people back. So there was a guy, a Hasidic Jew, a Jew with side curls and Hasidic Jew, very religious Jew. And I'm also a very religious Jew. He's not more religious because he has cycles, but he was of that group. And he was standing by the van that people were going into, and he was calling because we needed one or two more people. So he said that you're going to Jerusalem. So I said, yeah. So I get there and I see what happened. So what happened was there were 2 seats, and one, he was waiting for me to go in first, and he was sitting next to me. The 2 seats was a priest, and then this very scantily clad woman. So he's figuring, I'll go sit in there, and then he'll sit next to me. So I said, okay, I'm not going to sit next to this scantily clad woman, because that's a normal desire. I'm not doing that. So I sit next to the priest. So at some point, I don't know. I first engaged him a little bit in a conversation, and then he started talking to me, and I was like, you know what? I'm like in the Holy Land. I said, no thanks. Let's stop. I just didn't want to do it. Because it in terms of me and my soul, it was at that point I was like, okay, So that's what I was saying last week. What I want to do with this program is I don't want to argue with Christians, and I don't want to argue that, and there's a place for that for the people who do that work, who God has put them in that role, and whether they were born into Christianity and they went out, whether they are Jewish people like Rabbi Singer and others of that of very kind and dedicated rabbis who spend their time in that. What I want to do is I want to share truth. I want to share Torah. And I don't want to argue with anybody. I understand people are stuck and they can't get out of the things they believe. And I don't, it's not my job to try to convince them. I don't have an obligation. I don't basically light into nations to share truth. And I welcome everyone who is there. So I want to apologize publicly, because if you hurt someone publicly, you got to make sure. I may have said things that may have been curt, and maybe it sounded off to Ra or to Dan, who are people who are of great caliber, who are sharing ideas from where they're from. I didn't mean it in such a way. I meant it in myself. That's not my goal. That's not my job. For me, the Torah portion this week, and how everything God moves the world exactly where it has to be. This week's Torah portion is every anti-missionary thing I would ever need my entire life. And it's as clear as a bell. There's nothing else that I need, or honestly, people of sound mind and logic are willing to think would need either, but that's not my problem. Those who want to hear, we can talk logic. Those who don't should be well, and God should direct us all in the right path. All the best, everyone. Any questions, comments, ideas?
There is one thing. Like I'm into my third year as a Noahide, and thankfully I've learned to subjugate the Yetzirah. So I'm now living in this kind of Yetzirah, and I'm doing very well. But the one thing I did learn about a lot of tshuva, I can't explain what I've come out of, but I've gone through a lot of tshuva, is that action after the tshuva speaks more than just confessing the tshuva.
Right. That's right. That's why there's 3 steps.
Yeah,
and the
because
3 steps. Watch the 3 steps, Stephen. 3 steps like this.
Yeah.
There's 3 parts of a human being. The internal spiritual mechanism called the mind. There's a speech where the mind comes out into an ethereal world. And then there's the action. Those are the 3 parts of a person, called mind, speech, and action. And the tshuva process is all 3. I originally regret what I did. That's my internal mechanism world. I have to verbalize. I got to bring it out into reality. Then I need to put it into action, undo what I did wrong, and not do that anymore. That's the action. You can't do it without all 3. If you try without all 3, you're going to fail, because if you do the action but you don't regret it, then how long can you keep the action going? If you do the action and you do the regret but you never admit it, then you're going to rationalize to yourself why you really were never wrong in the first place, and then you'll stop doing it eventually. It will require all 3 dimensions of the human being. Very good point.
But it's taken it's taken really 2.5 years to subjugate the Yetzirah, and now sort of leaning the Yetzirah off, and just completely, like, my supplication is I'm just grateful and thank you, because the thing is, you've got to be very decisive. If you think for a minute that you were over a problem just around the corner, you could be prone to slip.
Right.
I have to be so decisive. But thankfully, what I've recognized is, I used to be in awe of Hashem, and since I've studied the 7 gates of righteous knowledge, and I've tapped into a bit of Kabbalah as well, is now you're in the fear of God. But the good thing about the fear of God is it kind of constrains you, because you're very careful about how you're
That's right.
moving through life.
Yeah, you're saying great. you're saying great. That's why I always tell people you need to have both components. You need to have the Yiras Hashem. I'm going to call it fear, but it's not the right word. The fear is the lowest level, awe is the higher level, and I know there's no word in English, but maybe the nullification to the grandeur. I don't know a word in English, but that's called Yira. That's called the awe of God. That's called being beyond and nullifying yourself to what's beyond. But there's the love, which is the feeling that when I love someone, I feel that I want to be with them because they make me feel better. But it has to do with me. You know, I love them to come over because they make me feel good. I love learning Torah. I feel better. Now that love, which is pushes positively, if it's not tempered with the awe, you're done. It's like a car. If you have a car with only brakes, you got a problem. If you have a car with only a gas pedal, which I once had actually, I once had a car in which I found out the brakes were not working. That's not good either. So if your gas pedal is going and you think, I love God, the next thing you do is that you think you're God because it makes me feel so good. And it's not beyond, God's not so infinitely beyond anything I could dream of. So when you go into that stage, you get stuck. If you go into the other stage, you can get paralyzed by the fear. You need to have both. Person needs to develop both. Both is the understanding that God loves us, He created us, He wants us. I feel love from that, and God is beyond anything I could ever see, imagine, compassionate, and I nullify myself. And you need to have that constant dynamic. That's the way the world is. So if you don't, then, and that's what you see. You'll see people who, think I'm so spiritual, man. I love God. Me and God are like best buds, It's like you don't really understand God, he's not wearing around your neck, you don't get God because you just made him as big as you.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question about a book
Yes.
I've been reading all week, and I want to know if you're familiar with it and if it's in or out of bounds for B'nai Noach. I've finished the first section, and it's just blowing my mind. It's called Sefer Halkarim by Rabbi Joseph Albo from the 15th century. It's just amazing as far as understanding some of the Jewish principles, and it's blowing my mind. I got through the first stage; it just answered and filled in the gap for so many questions. I don't want to be reading something that's out of bounds. I find I'm getting into the second sections, getting into more detailed material, and I don't want to be out of bounds. So I find too many B'nai Noach.
I would have to go through the book again to know in terms of the lines. The Sefer Ikrim is a fundamental work on the Jewish principles of belief. Let me. I'm going to give you this is a long class. I'm going to give you in about 30 seconds. There is no book. The Torah does not give you the beliefs of Judaism. There's 13 commandments. There's the whole system, and you can't basically say one thing is off. If a person says one thing I don't believe, then they don't believe in the system because the system is divine. It's not like I'm always amazed by people who believe in that the Bible is inspired or whatever it is. Like why would you dedicate your life to something that's not like really what God said? I don't understand. But if a person changes any of the commandments, then they have broken away from the fundamental understanding of what Torah is. So the Torah does not list for us the fundamentals that when a person breaks away from these beliefs, it's a new religion. Maimonides codified them into 13. Now, the truth is, the book of Sefer Ikrim by Yosef Elbo really is the same 13 principles as Maimonides, but it boiled down into 3 roots. That there is God, an omnipotent, beneficent creator God. 2, he gave a binding and lasting Torah. 2. Right, with all those things cannot be changed, all of those components. 3, there is consequences, reward and punishment for actions. Those 3 principles are really the 13 that Maimonides goes through. Maimonides just goes through in greater detail. So, for example, Maimonides, when he talks about the belief in God, one of the beliefs, he talks about how God cannot be a corporal image. God cannot be physical. Oh, it's infinite, makes no physical. Like, no, you don't understand, because you're stuck in your little reality. You understand the world this way. You don't understand that is not the definition of God. And you know, the question, can God do this? Can he put himself? It's like, can God make a rock he can't pick up? Well, I know we had that deep philosophical discussion when I was 18 years old after a few beers in college. I know I had that discussion, but it's not really the question you think it is. Can God make a rock he can't pick up? Well, when I was 18 years old and I was sitting with my friends, oh, wow, so deep. It's not so deep. Why is it not so deep? Because because you live on Earth. You are in gravity. There's weight. This same question, if you were in outer space, would be nonsensical. Could God make a rock you can't pick up? There's no weight in outer space. You're only asking the question because you are stuck in your little world. You think you understand God. So you had your beers, you had your philosophy, but it's a dumb question. I understand it's a great paradox. And I don't mean to be funny about it, because it really is a very, very, very deep paradox. And then it talks about in Kabbalah and all these different ways. But when you ask the question, not to, thinking that you have an answer, you don't realize you're imposing your limited reality on a reality that's beyond you. So, you know, Maimonides now goes through different ideas of what does it mean God? God cannot be corporal, not a physical person. So Yosef Elbo does not go through, he does, but he boils down the 3 principles to those same 3. So it's a obviously fabulous book. It's not a modern book. It's a book written many, many years ago by a great sage. I would think it could be fine. I have to go through it exactly to see for Noachides, but I would think it's principal things that are probably relevant to everyone, mostly. I don't remember, but mostly I would think, yeah, I mean, he may go through some details that he wrote it for Jews. I don't know if he, you know, if he will define any differences, but I would think on the surface it should be all right. All right, guys. Wonderful, my pleasure. I got to go in a minute. I've got to pack up here. Anything else you want to ask me?
Anybody in the group have a final question for the rabbi?
Yeah, what's the color code of that green color you got on the wall behind you?
Is it good or bad? I don't know.
It's nice to see some color everywhere you go in these apartments. They're all white now, so.
I know, it's funny. People come to my house and look, you know, we people stay in my house when we're gone, isn't that? But like the real estate people are like, you got to paint everything white. I'm like, your house is so like homey. It's like got these colors, and it's like, yeah, we're from a different generation. I like some colors, some hominess. You know, it's not too fancy, but it's nice. All right, guys, great seeing you all, and enjoy. And
so we're on for next week, Rabbi, but you're going to be in Israel, right?
I'll be in Israel. I'll be at the same time next week, and we'll continue with the month of Elul a little bit as we get ready for this change and this dynamic of growth that we all have to go through, and hopefully get to where we should be.
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi, for everything you do. Just know how much we really appreciate you sharing with us. It means a lot, and I know a lot of people enjoy it out there. So safe travels to Israel, and we look forward to seeing you next week, Rabbi.
Thanks. All the best. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. So we're going to sign out of our Working Together series for today. We will be back next week. Rabbi will be in Israel. Look forward to that. So we'll see you at the same time next week, though he will be in Israel. That's going to add another. So you're talking 11 p.m. in Israel for him. Yeah, excellent. So till then, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.